Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. And we have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, as it's gonna be none other than Ketroc taking on BenBotBC. So we could very well be in for an epic match here today, as these are probably the two best Terran bots out there at the minute. Gonna be going head to head. We'll potentially see lots of battle cruisers, Vikings. Personally, I'm hoping for at least a few Thors. And so yeah, ladies and gentlemen, before we get any further into this match, make sure to go ahead and click that like button if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below saying more bots if you want to see more of these bot matches. And then subscribe if you haven't already, as we put out daily bot matches on the channel. Okay, let's see. We do have BenBot going for its signature proxy racks, perhaps the strongest opening out of any of the StarCraft 2 bots that there is, because this is something that is a relatively small commitment, but then it causes a massive reaction by the opponents of BenBot. Ketroc, meanwhile, is going for a command center first, so that could actually be quite horrible for the red Terran bot, as there's a bunker going on up. Ketroc says, versus proxy bunker versus cheese. The fact that it knows it's up against a proxy bunker makes me wonder if Ketroc has done some specific work against this kind of build. Killing that SCV is going to be very important, and the SCV still alive does perish. BenBot now has got to send another SCV across the map. Looks like it's actually going to use this, or no, it's sending one from the main. It would be cool if it used the scouting one, but then it's still got to scout. SCVs are doing work, trying to buy time. The most important thing for Ketroc is that it buys enough time for this command center to stay alive and then potentially just lift it off. Fortunately, SCVs are quite tanky. They are the tankiest of the workers in StarCraft 2, just by a simple 5 HP. But it does help out a little bit at times. They pay for that and not having free repair or shield regen. Ketroc does a good job allowing that command center to finish up. It's now producing SCVs, although I'm not sure whether this is going to go well for the red Terran, pardon me, as the Marine does make it into the bunker. So that is quite painful. And yeah, BenBot will be able to get a bite into Ketroc and hold this location. Meanwhile, its own command center is going up. Ketroc does rally, and SCV down takes the stab at that bunker. That doesn't work out well. Looks like Ketroc is still programmed to try and kill that bunker. However, it's doing a very good job of actually keeping the SCVs alive. Fortunately for Ketroc, it's not actually just rallying these SCVs to their death. They're eating like a few shots, then getting out of there. But now firepower in that bunker is increasing, so losses for Ketroc may increase. This is one way to deal with a proxy bunker, though. A planetary fortress morphing for Ketroc at this natural base. I'm not sure I've ever seen proxy bunker versus planetary fortress before, so this is very cool. A scan gets dropped for BenBot. That's rather interesting. I'm wondering what the cause of that was, but the PF is done, and it's actually in range of the bunker. This is absolutely ridiculous. I have never seen this before, as Ketroc should be able to crack this bunker. However, the SCV for BenBot is putting in overtime trying to repair it. I'm not sure it repairs faster than this bunker, or than this planetary kills it, though. Ketroc has lost quite a few SCVs and Marines, just rallying them into this bunker. 11 dead SCVs, 5 dead Marines for, well, the relatively small commitment of BenBot, which now has got its natural base up, turning into an orbital command already. A significant worker lead. So yes, a very, very successful proxy by BenBot. At least Ketroc had the planetary fortress out to deal with that. That is something new. So we'll see how clutch that PF is potentially later in the game, as that is a big decision when it comes to programming your bot, a Terran bot anyway. Whether you go ahead and build orbitals at every base, or use planetaries kind of as a catch-all defense, or somewhere in between. Games have been won by Terran bots that went for more orbitals than planetaries, because that extra income you get from the mules can be very significant. Meanwhile, we've got BenBot seemingly taking the threat of Banshees very seriously as it goes for high-sec auto-tracking. I'm wondering if this is a matchup-specific choice to go for that very quick high-sec auto-tracking to prevent Banshees from harassing with those turrets. Meanwhile, Ketroc does have double armory on the way up, so that's a big commitment to upgrades very early on. There is a starport done for Ketroc, just no air units have been made. The Red Terran bot isn't producing any, or producing that many units anyway. Like, it's prioritizing getting upgrades. Now it finally fires up a Banshee. We'll just have to wait and see whether Ketroc is going to be able to come back in this game economically. Fortunately for the Red Terran, I think it is a bit of a trend in BenBot's games that it does give the opponent ample opportunity to try and macro up and catch up in a game. I really do like the double upgrades on the way for Ketroc, though. Looks like we have the Red Terran bot finishing up a couple supply depots, which is important as it actually does get supply blocked for a moment, ever so slightly. But yeah, that is unfortunate. So let's see here, as we do have a Widow Mine on the way for BenBot now. A third command center is on the way for the Blue Terran, as we've yet to see that on the way for Ketroc, as Ketroc is simply just going into this mass air strategy. At the start of the game, we saw Raven, so potentially mass air going, well, it's very clearly going to be the strategy of Ketroc at this point. But whether it'll be Banshees or, well, it's probably going to be Ravens based off what we saw in the chat. But how many Banshees get made still, how many Vikings, that kind of thing will be very important. Both these bots, I believe, have some sort of dynamic unit composition, so if they see lots of Vikings or air units from the enemy, they'll try and match and counter that. No third base for Ketroc yet, as it is just investing in all this tech. It does have the minerals to start up a fourth, so I do hope we see one, or a third base, pardon me, so I do hope we see one of those sometime soon. Meanwhile, BenBot is just doing its thing. These are two pretty greedy Terran bots. Neither of them is exactly pumping out a ton of units presently. They're both just spending money on other things. Ketroc is getting up lots of production. However, it will need a good economy to make use of those 5 starports. BenBot, meanwhile, does have a battlecruiser on the way. That's going to potentially be big, seeing as how Ketroc does lack anti-air right now, presently just having 2 Ravens and a Marine as the only sources. It will be able to fire up Vikings relatively quickly, though, with those 5 starports. BenBot does get the third base landed, going to be making it a planetary fortress, so that is the first expansion, and I think BenBot probably will turn all its other expansions into planetaries, which could hurt it economically. Depends now whether Ketroc matches that or goes for orbitals itself, as that could allow it to come back in the game. And let's see, we've got 56 to 65 workers, so just flip the numbers around. BenBot does have a nice economic lead in this game. It's definitely making no attempt to extend that by going for its own crazy economy or trying to finish off Ketroc with a nice timing attack or anything like that, as these two are just straight up macro bots. Okay. Multiple Vikings on the way for BenBot. We've got weapon refit, 1-2 upgrades on the way for the Blue Terran, whereas the Red Terran does lead the charge with the 2-2 upgrades. BenBot is behind a little bit on that. However, the fact that it's researching 2 at a time does give me a bit of confidence in it. Notably, Ketroc hasn't actually produced any Vikings of its own yet. And oh, look at this. We do get a planetary at the 3rd for Ketroc. What do we have at the 4th? There's also a 5th base going up for Ketroc. It is double planetaries. So both these bot authors decided in this matchup, or at least with this play style from Ketroc, that because we have definitely seen games from Ketroc where it doesn't go for planetaries at every base, this will be nice for BenBot, though. Pardon me, it looks like some auto turrets must have got thrown down, maybe trying to kill a Hellion or something. Yes, so Ketroc won't be catching up in the economy as quickly as it could have potentially done. Still, though, the Red Terran bot does already have a 5th base on the way, whereas BenBot is just looking to land its 4th. So this is, once again, the decisions as a bot author that affect your bot's viability in the late game. Just the timings of everything, because, I mean, Ketroc was behind in the economy, and now all of a sudden it's building a 6th base on location, having a mineral surplus because it is just spamming out Ravens. A nice bit of a delay from this Hellion. Blue Flame Hellion for BenBot, able to delay the 6th. Ketroc sends out another SCV, taking a 7th base. So this is just a ridiculously greedy macro game. The single Hellion for BenBot would do better with some counterparts, as there is plenty of opportunity to cancel bases for BenBot. We have got an auto turret getting thrown down. Turrets for Ketroc are being repaired to hold and actually push these BCs away. On this map, it's a very unfortunate large battle cruiser nose that actually blocks quite a bit of the vision on this map. Is that on the other side too? No, it's just on this map. It must actually be a bug with the AI version of this map. I get the feeling that BC is not supposed to be that big and that impeding. So that's a little comical. Ketroc, though, upon seeing the battle cruiser, lets us know it's Viking time. So that will definitely help shut this down. We've also got 3-3 on the way for the Red Terran. Plenty more command centers still on the way. BenBot does have another Hellion skirting around. Gonna get a delay on this base. So little things like that add up when we look at the fact that BenBot is now just floating over its own 5th. Ketroc starts... Oh gosh, I'm having a hard time keeping track of how many bases. This is the 8th base for Ketroc, which is absolutely ridiculous. Up to 91 SCVs. So BenBot's economic lead is going to be kind of melting away here, as Ketroc will have very good saturation on its bases, very high worker production. BenBot, though, may be able to capitalize on a move out, and that's exactly what it's going for. BCs coming in, Vikings coming in as well. Ketroc, though, does have very good defensive positions, turrets and tanks at this planetary. BenBot is coming down to this base, though, that is not yet constructed, so that is quite important, as this base very well may fall. There is building armor for Ketroc, so it's a little bit tougher than you'd think. Also, very notably, the bot version of the game is actually behind a patch, so that means planetaries do have 1 extra building armor than in the current version of Starcraft 2. Ketroc, though, does come in, throws down a bunch of auto turrets, forces BenBot away. Let's track where these battle cruisers are for BenBot. Just 3 BCs hanging out at home. A couple Ravens have died for Ketroc, but nothing too major going down in this game. And we've already got the Red Terran taking, well, its share of the map, basically. So I'm curious if Ketroc will potentially take even more bases in the future. The Red Terran really is short on money presently, though, as it has just been investing in lots of bases, lots of tech that have yet to pay off. More Ravens are being produced at a time. Turrets going up at all these bases is very important to potentially help defend against the BCs. We've got BenBot with a massive, massive Viking count. It's currently 12 Vikings to 16, so BenBot in the lead. Auto turrets getting thrown down, though, trying to take care of these siege tanks and potentially save this base. The Yamato cannon from the BCs definitely does cost Ketroc, as we've now seen 5 Ravens go down pretty much for free, thanks to those BCs. All the tanks of BenBot do get cleaned up, though. So, it's a success for Ketroc when we consider the fact that the base was saved. Vikings are being produced en masse on both sides. We'll see soon whether BenBot's BCs are an advantage or a hindrance, as Ketroc, if it just builds Vikings, will potentially be able to kill all of those battle cruisers. Notably, there isn't any interference matrix for Ketroc either, so the Ravens are just going strictly for auto turrets. No use of that. And yeah, maybe yeah, I'll have to look into that, because it is curious. And then we also have that little tag there that says "fix me" on the icon. So maybe it doesn't currently work in bot versions, or maybe it's just not worth it for bot authors to explore. Anyway, we do have the turret doing work, being repaired by the SCVs, so turret placement definitely matters in these bot games, as that helps out. BenBot takes a fight, Viking on Viking. I think it's going all right for Ketroc, though, having a slight numbers advantage presently, making 8 Vikings at a time. BenBot, upon losing some supply, starts building 12 Vikings at a time. This is just a massive air battle. Ketroc saves the planetary once again. Does have the base in the upper right being secured as well, so that will give Ketroc a nice advantage compared to BenBot as far as the base count is concerned. Getting that up and securing it is going to be very, very important. We also still have an upgrade lead for Ketroc. BenBot's getting bio upgrades despite not really making too many bio units. It's got 10 Marines out presently. Okay, they're just hanging out at that base. BenBot is now hitting the bottom left, so Ketroc's army does have to respond to that. That's the problem with having so many bases. These SCVs really are buying so much time, and they may actually repel these BCs, so this is really good for Ketroc, as the battlecruisers don't kill those BCs. The Vikings for Ketroc do kind of just trail in, though, so that is not ideal, as quite a few of them do get gobbled up by BenBot. If it wasn't for these turrets, the Blue Terran would absolutely be able to move in and kill this base. Yamato Cannon going to hit one of the turrets, and it does kill it off. Second BC comes on in. This one is now being repaired, which is quite important. We'll see if Ketroc does plant down more turrets at that base. And that is a bit of a meta thing, which I think we've maybe seen a little bit. I think the turret placement is slightly different from Ketroc compared to previous games. Looks like it's probably basing it off the base position than facing them towards the enemy presently. But I think that is a bit of an interesting meta thing. We've maybe seen some bots building more turrets, and I'd really honestly like to see even more turrets be added by these bot authors, because they're so good as far as the catch-all is concerned. BenBot does seem to be breaking the bottom left of Ketroc, though, potentially freeing that base up for its own expansion. Vikings run into Vikings, so BenBot gets the jump on Ketroc. It's currently 20 Vikings to 20. However, that number is going to be a little bit reduced for Ketroc. Fortunately, both of these bots can afford to replace whatever they lose. Starport check 12 to 8. BenBot, I believe, making use of more reactors than its opponent, so no mass BC production for BenBot. It's just hanging on to the ones that it's got. The base in the bottom left has been cleared out, so BenBot can potentially expand to that. Meanwhile, Ketroc now coming in with all of its own Vikings, going to pick off one of the BCs, and we'll see which bot wins this air battle. Ketroc does have the upgrade lead, having the higher attack on its Vikings. It's still very, very close, and it looks like the Red Terran will fall short in this air battle. The Ravens really are just dead supply at this point for Ketroc. They're not going in, throwing down auto turrets, that kind of thing. Very difficult to program, but in a situation like this, hopefully Ketroc isn't rebuilding any Ravens that potentially die. Battlecruiser flies over, trying to chase down some of these units, does get pushed away. One BC hitting that base in the upper right. BenBot, meanwhile, loses a refinery, lets us know it's rebuilding that. The base in the bottom left is being attempted to be rebuilt by Ketroc. BenBot also wants to land a base there, it would seem, as that's on its way over. We'll see which bot actually ends up with that base. Meanwhile, this base in the upper right is being cleaned out. This one BC is doing so much work. If this base actually dies, that will be huge. Some auto turrets are getting thrown down by Ketroc to help zone out the Vikings, as Ketroc does commit on in. The Ravens may not go after Vikings or BCs, but they will go after this planetary, so we may be seeing a bit of a base for a base situation. That is absolutely the case, as the upper right gets taken out by BenBot. Meanwhile, this more southern base gets killed by Ketroc. The Ravens need to throw down an auto turret to save this expo, but they are not doing that. Base 4 BenBot flies into the danger zone and is going to be killed off. This one turret is still nice for BenBot, actually zoning out Ketroc a little bit. The upper right being harassed more as a turret fights a battlecruiser, but the BC is just kind of ignoring its problems, eventually teleports on out of there. BenBot, I don't think, has lost. Okay, it's lost one BC, and it's actually built a few more. It's up to 5 presently, which is more than I thought. Yamato cannons are going down on the Vikings of Ketroc. Ketroc maybe not having all of its Vikings here and grouped up. I'm guessing some of them are probably heading home to be repaired, which does take them out of the fight for a while. Ketroc notably also says Medivac, which is a feature of this bot that actually is quite cool. It keeps a Medivac at the bases to heal up SCVs in order to sort of help defend them from harassment, that kind of thing. Ketroc is now attempting to secure up this base. BenBot says no way, Jose, though, as it is going to just clean that out with a tank. Marines still in this game are moving down to the bottom left. BenBot is actually rebuilding a few more Marines, but hey, they're actually doing their job, kind of zoning Ketroc out a little bit. We do have battle cruisers coming on in once more, hitting this base. SCVs are clutch with the repair, though. I wonder where that Medivac is. It is boosting over. Yeah, this Medivac is quite cool. It flies around the map, healing up SCVs that have taken damage. which I guess the goal is to try and reduce the effectiveness of enemy harassment. As far as the Viking versus Viking fight goes, though, BenBot is still seemingly having the better grouping than Ketroc. 63 dead to 44 is a definite lead for BenBot. Vikings for Ketroc just seemingly are having to head on home to be repaired a little too often, whereas BenBot seems to have better grouping. BCs are taking lots of damage and being repaired for BenBot. Overall resources lost now, it's important to look at, is 27,000 for Ketroc versus 17,000 for BenBot. So that is a massive advantage for the Blue Terran bot. However, base count definitely still matters. BenBot is just securing this base in the bottom left. The base, well, this other bottom left base is still up for grabs. Banshee gets picked off. Vikings skirmishing non-stop. This game is 20 minutes in and just absolutely nuts still. I'm not sure which bot is going to take this one. Ketroc presently has the higher income. And then we have got, yeah, still a few more Vikings being picked off. Repair going down on these turrets, zoning away these battle cruisers. Yamato cannon going down. Yamato cannon doesn't quite one-shot turrets anymore, but it basically does. It's like 240 damage, so the turret has 10 HP, which means it burns down in something like 7 seconds without any support. Ravens are trying to bring down this planetary. BenBot has Jump Fortress, which is a very cool feature that we don't see too often used by the Blue Terran bot, but that does send a BC in order to defend a base, making use of their tactical jump. Ketroc is having its upper right base cleaned out. It seems the 2 turrets are just not enough in order to defend this location. This is why I'd potentially love to see even more turrets at bases. I don't think you can go wrong with too much static defense in these games. Meanwhile, Ketroc trying to take the bottom left. BenBot also trying to secure up the bottom left. Whoever holds onto these bases is going to be massively, it's going to be massively important. Ketroc once again going to lose the upper right, it seems, to a single battlecruiser, as it's just not prioritizing that threat. It's currently 24 Vikings to 19. Ketroc seems to have them trickle in a little bit more, though, than its opponent. BenBot fighting over turrets is quite nice for it as well. Marines also coming in to save the day and clean out this base in the bottom left, potentially freeing it up for BenBot. Now, see, the Blue Terran bot does clean up that base in the upper right, so these corner bases really are just an absolute war zone. Ketroc suffering from a lack of turret or anything in that mineral line, though. So that's really great harassment for BenBot. The resources lost is still just 10,000 between each other, which in theory means things are improving slightly for Ketroc, as the ratio in that case is decreasing a little bit. Now, Yamato Cannon does actually kill off a Raven, and that BC gets out of there with a whopping 7 HP. Very, very lucky battlecruiser. Marines now coming in for BenBot, running into the planetary fortress. Battlecruiser getting a Yamato Cannon off. This PF should be fine as Ketroc spams down auto turrets. Almost actually does kill one of those battlecruisers. BenBot is now building more Vikings, but this time the Blue Terran was a little bit out of position. The attacking behavior is very cool. Ketroc once again trying to secure up the upper right. It seems that it doesn't want to throw down auto turrets on just like a single Hellion, which is interesting, but it definitely would benefit from that at this point. Now, Vikings are skirmishing in the skies. Again, though, it does seem that Ketroc seems to finally be a little bit grouped up better than BenBot, if that's English at all. But now we do have the base in the upper right being denied. Base in the bottom left. Looks like BenBot may actually secure this one up. Just after a lot of effort, we are finally going to have a Thor be added in this game. Vikings for Ketroc are doing their thing, chasing away a battlecruiser. The current Viking loss count is 100 to 78, so again, I think that means the ratio is slightly improving for Ketroc as this game goes on. Ravens are hanging back for now, but they may commit on in at some point. BenBot, though, now has grouped up its own Vikings with a lead. 27 to 15 is quite scary for the Red Terran. The base in the upper right is being resumed building, so in theory, if each bot can hold on to a base, well, hold on to a corner, then things would be fairly even, and it really would come down to the resources lost. There is bigger factors, well, other factors in the game anyway, things such as repair cost on battle cruisers, repair cost on structures, that doesn't get counted till a structure dies, but something that I also want to point out is upgrade cost. Like, I'm not sure on the math, but BenBot's got to have spent at least a couple thousand more resources on upgrades. The fact that it's got 3/3 for its Marines, the fact that it's got +3 attack for its ground units, whereas Ketroc is just strictly spending money on air units in this game. So that might help close that resource loss gap a little bit, or at least the significance of it. Vikings versus Vikings once more. This game is just ridiculous. Now, I do like how both these bots do kind of stand and fight with their Vikings, even when they're outnumbered. As sometimes retreating endlessly is just even worse. Mass auto turrets get thrown down for Ketroc once again. That will actually clean out the base in the bottom left. So that is quite nice for the Red Terran bot. It builds up enough energy on the Ravens, then it goes for the full send. Yamato cannons do catch a couple of Vikings in the sky, though, as BenBot does continue to get some nice pickoffs. We've got 2 CCs building for the Red Terran, one in the bottom left, one in the upper right. That is the advantage of Ketroc just building its bases on location, whereas BenBot flies its over. It's because it's a mighty long flight for a command center. When it has to be built in the main, floated all the way over there, it takes just a long time. And that means that Ketroc can potentially secure up the bases prior to BenBot. Looks like the Hellion of BenBot getting some really nice harassment done. We've got the Blue Terran just constantly repairing its Vikings. That's a feature that's not unique, as Ketroc does the same. It's just kind of common logic when you program a bot. If a unit's injured, just send it home to heal it on up. And both these bots have done quite a good job of fine-tuning that. The banks right now are in the lead of Ketroc, but overall the income definitely will matter. If we look at the bases, I mean, Ketroc mining out quite a few of these outer bases, BenBot also mining out these outer bases, so these corner bases will begin to matter even more and more as this game goes on. Tanks sieging up at this base for Ketroc is quite cool. Turrets trying to deal with battle cruisers. These BCs do have Yamato cannon off cooldown, but notably they're targeting the tanks, so they're not actually going for the turrets, which are their main threat right now. Ketroc is having its base in the bottom left be denied. The Hellion usage of BenBot is very effective at delaying Ketroc's bases. And then there's a counter argument. If Ketroc built its bases, then floated it over, they wouldn't be denied by these turrets, so, or by these Hellions, pardon me. So it's a bit of damned if you do, damned if you don't. SCV's putting in the work to try and repair this tank. Meanwhile, there's a massive air battle raging on overhead. Looks like this base did stay alive for Ketroc, which is quite important. Mass auto turrets are getting thrown down as Ketroc does go in with the Ravens. It helps pick off a couple of Vikings in the skies, maybe give Ketroc a bit of ground. We do presently have 19 Vikings against 12, so BenBot has to rebuild after losing quite a few of them. Looks like one Viking... Oh, look, okay, pause for a second as Ketroc goes for its mineral stealing behavior with its mass mules. Not many of these are going to make it back, but if a mule dies holding the money, that is money not in BenBot's pocket. So Ketroc really designed with the long game in mind. We did actually have a battle cruiser picked off just a moment ago by the Vikings as well. So every resource matters, and things really are evening up here. It's now 53,000 resources lost to 52,000. That is really actually looking quite good for Ketroc, all things considered, I think, as it does have these 2 bases in the upper right mining, whereas BenBot has yet to really mine from the bottom left. We are 28 minutes into this game. Now a Thor shows up for BenBot. That's going to be very helpful in the Viking versus Viking battle. The only thing that Ketroc has that will really kill this Thor is the Ravens, which, I mean, they do commit in fairly consistently for Ketroc, so it very well may go down, but until then, Thor could have great effect. I'm actually really a big fan of Thors in late game battles, because really the only predator of the Thor is the tank. And potentially BCs, depending how they're microed, I suppose. But anyway, we do have BenBot trying to hold on to this location. Ketroc, though, is, well, securing up the bottom left. So BenBot really needs to do something, whether it be kill a base of Ketroc or something. Battle cruisers are flying on in. trying to get continued efficiency, dropping their Yamato cannon, then getting out of there. This one is quite committed. Its teleport is off cooldown now, so it does successfully get out of there. I'm not sure if that's something that BenBot utilizes, but I think great programming behavior when it comes to using the BCs is having them sit back maybe until their cooldown is like 10 seconds away from completion, because then odds are by the time any fight is engaged or done, the BCs probably will they'll probably be able to get on out of there. Battle cruisers are hitting the bottom left, so BenBot may be doing what it needs to do. That is clearing out the space. The SCVs will die first, and yeah, this could be a big loss for Ketroc if it does lose this base in the bottom left, because this is kind of a requirement at this point in the game for BenBot to take this. So yeah, BCs are cleaning out the bottom left base. Ketroc is doesn't have this one in the bag necessarily yet, although BenBot does attempt to land a base where Ketroc has clearly held for quite a while, so that's definitely not ideal behavior. BenBot cleaning out the bottom left is very important. Killing off SCVs that are rallied here is also very nice. This one battle cruiser is up to 90 kills. What an absolute legend. Yamato cannon going on down as these BCs teleport on out before dying. Vikings versus Vikings. Currently the losses is 181 to 156. So BenBot maintains the lead in that. Yeah, I guess just the difference in the bank. It's not really because of resources lost at this point. It's simply because Ketroc has mined more than BenBot. Ketroc now dropping mass auto turrets, going to kill this planetary. The mule just being a lazy bones doesn't help repair it. I'm not sure it would have saved it anyway. BenBot, though, is in very dire straits now, running out of bases and soon to be running out, well, it is out of money effectively. So Ketroc kind of just needs to trade out as much as possible, as quickly as possible, and then it can probably win this game. We see a CC now building in the bottom left. Once again, Ketroc's constant expanding behavior is working quite well. Now going to plant one right there. So I think if I was to say that just the build a command center behavior on location seems to be more effective than floating them over for BenBot. BenBot's approach is much more methodical, slower, but then we did have cases where, for example, the CC floated to a base that was clearly taken.
Is under attack.
I believe anyway. So maybe improving the memory on that a little bit, or the timing, something like that. Ketroc now dropping mules on the unclaimed base to steal the money from that. This trip will actually be successful, I think, as the mules have to mine one by one. For those of you that didn't know, that was a fairly significant change made in Legacy of the Void, was so that mules couldn't mine from the same patch simultaneously. It kind of prevented the mass muling of Terrans, which was a very big problem back in the day. Less of a problem now. Doesn't mean these mules have to politely wait their turn. We do have Ketroc coming on in, though, seeing this base for BenBot. BenBot not going to scare this up, and so I think we do have the writing on the wall for the blue Terran, as it's just not really able to build anything. It's got a teeny tiny amount of resources up here, but with Ketroc winning the battle over these couple of bases, it will have the resources it needs to probably win this game. And what a game this has been. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still watching up until this point, 33 minutes into the game, click that like button. If we can hit 33 likes, that would be phenomenal. You guys always blow it out of the water. Leave a comment down below saying more bots. Let me know if you want to see a rematch. I don't know. Let me know whether you had a good Easter, that kind of thing. And subscribe if you haven't already. You can click the bell icon to get notified. I announce tournaments on the channel. I sometimes do live streams. Battle cruisers for BenBot are unfortunately just getting one volleyed down by all the Vikings of Ketroc. 33 Vikings in the sky against 4. It is just going to be a slow death, I think, at this point for BenBot. Yamato cannons are going down, killing off a couple Vikings. Is the commander BC alive with his 90 kills still? Or has he perished? Is this a stuck Thor for BenBot? Oh no. Oh man, the little things do add up in these games, but BenBot having a stuck Thor really hurts at this point. Oh, never mind, it's not stuck. He was just being lazy. Okay, good to see. Because I know we have had issues with that in the past from BenBot, but yes, the Thor gets out. Maybe it was that SCV blocking it or something. Okay. Yeah, Ketroc just needs to clean this one out. If you guys do want to support these daily casts, consider becoming a YouTube member. You can use the join button down below, or there is other ways to support the channel in the description as well, and all the support is appreciated. All right, so looks like BenBot is just moseying around the map, unfortunately out of steam. 34 minutes in, and yeah, Ketroc just kind of has to win the day with this one. Battlecruiser dies before it can teleport out. Ravens will go through the process now of cleaning up the bases, building up energy, spamming down auto turrets, that kind of thing. BenBot does still have the one Thor, but he is just being lazy. I'm not sure why this is. Like, we saw him get out of there before. Don't believe him, guys. He's not stuck. Like a cat waiting to be fed. It's already been fed. BenBot somehow gets up the money to build another command center, but I'm not sure that's really going to matter. Ketroc now adding insult to injury, mining out the last mineral patch of BenBot. The mule behavior from Ketroc is something special. We may even get mule messages from Ketroc, as is something the bot author has programmed in. How many orbitals does Ketroc have? 5 orbital commands, so it has built a couple of extra, so it can go for that mass scan, mass mule strategy. We are kind of just waiting for the Ravens to build up energy. Mass amounts of auto turrets getting thrown down. It does seem cool for Ketroc that the Ravens seemingly go home until they've rebuilt a certain amount of energy. Makes sense not having them out on the map fighting when they don't have the energy to really do too much. At the same time, Ketroc does need to clean out the bases within 20 minutes. As for those of you that don't know, on sc2ai.net, these games, where they're played, they only go for an hour. Otherwise, we'd potentially have broken bots having 9-hour-long games, which I think is the longest a StarCraft 2 game can go before it auto-resolves in a tie. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's like 11 hours. Maybe, I don't know. There's so many little things to remember about StarCraft 2 that it's like, oh yeah, that could be important one day. The games end in 9 hours. Keep that in mind. If you guys do want to learn how to program a bot, I think there's definitely quite a few bots on the ladder right now, which is very, very cool to see. You can program a bot, throw it on the ladder, have it compete against other bots. There are some wonderful guides out there, and you can check out the AIarena.net in order to figure out how to go about that. It's a very cool process. This one Thor has got a lot of work to do. Ketroc is not wasting too much time, though, and is going to clean everything up. The Thor goes down. That is going to be that. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching. I'm wondering if we're going to get a mule message from Ketroc. That's something that it sometimes does, where it'll spell messages on the map with mules, but it doesn't seem to be happening this game, unfortunately. I was hoping for it. GG.